Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, here in Dallas, we're having a problem staffing our police department to what people think is an adequate level, but we're not alone. This seems to be a trend that's affecting not just us, but a lot of police departments across the country. My next guest, former Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith from the National Police Association. Welcome back to the James Show. Is this a nationwide trend, this officer shortage?
It continues to be a nationwide trend, and now we have more of a difficulty in urban areas like Dallas, and suburban departments are starting to make some gains when it comes to police staffing. We're also seeing staffing issues in rural police departments that are often traditionally, the pay is less, and if you're a police chief in a 2 or 3 man agency, you've got to manage the agency plus be a working cop. So we sometimes see shortages there. However, I think that going into 2025, we're going to see an uptick in law enforcement morale, which is going to give us some additional recruiting tools to bring people back to this profession.
Well, for most jobs, the way to bring more people in is increase their pay. Is it? I'm guessing it's not that simple for cops.
It really is, and we're seeing some police agencies that are offering extraordinary hiring bonuses. I myself was thinking about coming out of retirement and going to Alameda County, California, and pocketing that. I think it was a $15,000 hiring bonus. But cops don't just do it for the money. We want to go somewhere where we're going to be appreciated. We don't want to work somewhere where we're likely to be indicted for doing our job. I'm talking to you, Austin, Texas.
Ooh.
And we also want to have a good quality of life for our own family. So nobody really becomes a cop for the money. It's nice to have, we want to be able to pay our mortgages and support our families. But we have more of a sense of mission. We want to be able to keep our communities safe and just do our jobs without being attacked.
Well, I've always felt sorry for cops in sort of the opposite direction because, of course, their job is stressful and dangerous. But also what I mean by the opposite direction is how just trifling and petty it can be. Like if we were in one of these towns that had the ban on plastic straws, you got to do paper straws, and then there was some rogue diner out there that had plastic straws, is someone going to call the cop and the cop has to deal with that? I mean, these little ticky-tack laws, I think, probably annoy some cops off the force.
Well, during COVID, it was a particularly difficult time for the American law enforcement officer because people were calling 911 because moms were taking their kids to city parks that were closed, things like that. The plastic straw thing, that's a regulatory situation. But, cops take an oath to the Constitution, and we want to be able to enforce criminal law without getting involved in nonsensical regulatory law. And so the kind of community that a police officer chooses to work for, if you're truly a constitutional cop, you're going to take a look at that too.
Well, on the local front, have you heard about this story about the 11 Texas police officers who got disciplined for a sting at massage parlors? I think this was Louisville.
I have heard a little about it. Yeah, it sounds like a disciplinary issue, but I don't know the details of it.
Yeah. So 3 fired, 1 demoted, 7 were suspended without pay. It used to seem like such a noble profession when you're a young boy growing up playing cops and robbers. This is me. I'm going to go catch the bad guy. But you have goofy stories like this, and plus the TV show Cops showed me what cops really do. You pull over people who lied that said they've only had 2 beers when they can barely talk, and that y'all put up with just so much of the bottom rung of society. It's not as glorious as it sounded when I was a child.
Well, I got to tell you, I did it for 29 years. I never had the same day twice, and I really loved every minute of it. But you're right. You see the dregs of society. You see people being horrible to people every single day. And police officer mental health is a big issue. But I think the bigger issue with a situation like you're talking about in Louisville is we got to make sure that we're hiring good, ethical police officers, and we're not worrying about DEI policies. We're not lowering standards to meet some sort of, DEI threshold. We need to just hire good, fit, ethical, psychologically fit police officers, and that helps eliminate those ethical issues like you're talking about there with the massage parlors.
All right, tell them about the NPA and include that homeschool part.
Absolutely. Go to nationalpolice.org, follow us on social media, hit that donate button, and if you're a homeschool parent, take a look at our free homeschool program, and it's fantastic, and you and I are going to talk about that moving forward. But hit that donate button if you can, because we can't do all this without the public.
Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith, National Police Association, thanks again for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up next, I have a few more details on that Louisville case, but there's also one that happened in Baltimore that has a little bit of twist and details. And after reading a couple of these stories, you kind of think, should we be doing this at all? What's the point of that? Who are you saving there? Anyway, details coming up. Your thoughts, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Should we be having 28 guys in a sting operation to bust a wayward massage parlor? Is that a good use of our scarce taxpayer resources? We'll talk about that next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. If you want to be a part of the show, if you got any comments, just jump in, 800-288-9227, because I'm going to be asking, should we be even doing this, spending all this money and resources to try and take down another massage parlor? Yeah, it's gross. No, I would never do it. If I could snap my fingers and make them all go away, I would. But apparently some guys are cool with that, and apparently some girls are cool with giving that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little too libertarian in that former fashion here, but you know, my last guest was talking about how we have a police shortage here. Well, we have the ability to send dozens and dozens of guys to tackle the task of wayward happy endings. That doesn't seem like, I don't know. I'm not cool with this. And another thing I learned is that's what all these foot places were. I wasn't being intentionally naive. I thought that there was a real delineation. Like when you see the massage parlors or massage places, it used to be the Swedes were all in on this. Remember a Swedish massage part? My first radio station job over like Mockingbird in 183, like where I had to exit to go to work, there was a Swedish massage parlor. And so I don't know when the evolution happened, when it was dominated by the Eastern Europeans, and then all of a sudden it's gone what seems to be dominated by our Far East Asian neighbors, but that seems to be the bulk of the focus. Now, there's a few things that are suspicious about this. Number one is, why are we going after these people instead of, like, I don't want to say actual prostitutes, but I mean, you know, full, more so than just the manual labor. They actually have can't describe it because kids are in the car, but you know what I'm talking about, like actual stuff like that. So why do they go after this? Is it because it's easier? They're easier pickings? Is it because the people that work there now tend to be immigrants, and so they're less likely to put up a fight or have somewhere to run or get a lawyer? Or maybe you don't even have to fight it. Maybe they'll just get deported, and it'll be like, hey, I can put a star on my report card without any further effort here. Is it because it's easier to do? Is it because it's almost fun to do? So a bunch of establishments were deemed in the Louisville area to be engaging in illegal activities. Look at this list. A+ foot massage, Angel Massage, Beijing Foot Spa, Happy Foot Spa, Happy Foot, Healing Spa, what are we healing? Linda Foot Spa, Massage 7, Perfect Foot Massage, Sun Massage, Top Massage. I learned something. That's what the foot. I thought maybe it was a dumb acupressure thing or something that I don't believe in, like tarot cards or getting a psychic reading or something. But that's what the foot thing is. How do you work your way up from the foot, though? Hey, when I'm done with your foot, can I just sneak all the way up your leg? I don't know. I really don't know. Don't want to know. Hope I'm never in a position to know. But we have the operation, 32 criminal charges against 28 suspects, seizing over about $250,000 in money, 2 motor vehicles. There's a lot of guys who got in trouble with this. A whole bunch of people got investigated, charges brought against 13 officers in the Louisville Police Department. Now, you got to give the Louisville Police Chief, Brooke Rollins, give him credit. I've seen a lot of these stories, and the police chief will be like, well, we're not sure about what's going on with this, or let's wait until the investigation's finished before, we start condemning any people. And there was no hemming and hawing by this guy. This guy said, oh, my goodness, we obviously did something wrong. These guys are going to be punished. And he kind of apologized to the community, which, man, you don't see that much. So it doesn't appear to be systemic, but 13 people? Now, 13 people didn't actually participate in the untoward actions that you and I would consider quite distasteful. Some of these were like, hey, you're the supervisor. Obviously, you weren't watching them well. You were the one that was supposed to go over the report. Clearly, you missed something, fell through the cracks. And so there's only a handful, no pun intended, of guys that actually did the deeds and were sort of getting away with it because they're not supposed to. But when you go look for other stories to compare this to, because I was trying to think of some other ones that had happened around here, and then some happened when I was at other jobs, and I remember reading about some other weird ones. Apparently, this has happened all over the place all the time. I mean, this is just because you're not in the scene and I'm not in the scene and Garrett's not in the scene. Apparently, there's still a scene. There's some people that are. This happens over and over and over from town to town to town, and it gets really weird. In a similar situation in Baltimore, there was a police sting. Some guys were going to these massage parlors, and they're not supposed to, actually participate in any acts. But I'll be damned. It just keeps happening over and over. They keep accidentally participating in the act. But the killer one was this one in Baltimore where the investigation after the fact showed that the officer who's not supposed to be participating in the act, once they offer and, prove that they're about to do it, that's enough to do the charges. Not only did he participate and complete the act, he took a little blue pill before his shift. So not only was it like, well, we got carried away, or I didn't want to break my cover, or she was forced upon me. He was going in there with the intent of doing it. And I bet he's not the only one. Should we even be doing this? 800-288-9227. I don't have a good answer for that. I know it's ugly and it's gross and it's wrong, and I would never do it, and I hope my daughters never get rolled up into that. But I'm not so sure if we take these ladies who are probably already victims of sex trafficking and living a pretty horrible life as it is, and we're just making their life worse for them. And what happens to the guys? Did any of the guys get in trouble? No, there's no guys that got in trouble. Just the girls whose life is already tough enough. I'm not sure if this is helping. I'm not sure who this is. Who is this helping? 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Donald Trump's made a lot of interesting choices when it comes to assembling his political team, Elon, Vivek, and now we got Pete Hegseth named today as the new Secretary of Defense. Coming up, you'll find out what does Raven Harrison think. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Sports fans, let's talk about Prize Picks. I know the Cowboy season is a dumpster fire. You can still take advantage, though. You know where the weaknesses are, better than all the other players. We know our team. We know how bad it is. We know where the chinks in the armor are. So use that to your advantage. Go to Prize Picks, find out who's lining up against us for the Texans and who has the lowest stat, and pick more on it. And look, even when the Cowboys lose, in fact, the worse they lose, the more fun you can still have. It's a good way to salvage the football season, maybe get a little extra spending money while you're doing it. And if you want to try it out, I'm going to take away some of the risk for you here. Download the Prize Picks app, use promo code WBAP, the name of this station, and with your first $5 play, you'll get $50 in promo cash. And all you have to do is get a lineup of two or more players, pick more or less on their statistics, and you can turn that promo money into some real money to walk away with. So go check it out. Download Prize Picks, use promo code WBAP, $50 with your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Now, it sounds like I am excusing bribes. I'm not excusing bribes. I have a sympathy for the people that are caught up in a system that is built on bribes, or bribes are part of the system. And if you want to play ball and you want to be a real estate developer and you want to get certain jobs and certain contracts, then bribes are just part of it. Does that make him a bad guy? I'm not so sure. The story starts, I found this on fox4news.com if you want all the details here. But the headline says, a Dallas real estate developer pleads guilty to bribing city council members. And so this just happened yesterday. The guilty plea came down yesterday. And he paid thousands of dollars to former Dallas Mayor Pro Tem Dwayne Caraway, former city council member Carolyn Davis, to support his real estate projects. He's looking at 5 years in federal prison. He's a 70-year-old guy. I mean, really, same question I had with the previous or 2 segments ago. Who's the victim here? Because what we have is a guy that's trying to get one of these loans from the city of Dallas. And the city of Dallas has all kinds of programs. They have all kinds of incentives. They have, revitalization projects and communities and initiatives and whatever. And while they all sound good, every single one of them will be nothing more than a lever of power, a tool that they can sell. You're giving them the power on which bribes are based. These bribes wouldn't have happened if these silly projects that I despise with the hot heat of 1,000 suns and wish they would all go away. If we would stop doing dumb, economically illiterate things like this, because that's what they all turn into. However, if that's what you got to do to play ball, who's the bad guy? In my point of view, it's almost 100% the politicians. But the people of Dallas, and really this happens in town after town after town, have a little bit of responsibility, too, for not shouting this stuff down, for not knowing better. When someone says, oh, look, we're going to start a new program where we're going to appropriate $1.9 million to revitalize such and such neighborhood. What happens when you do that is you take money from the taxpayers and you let the politicians control who gets it. So they now have the power to pick winners and losers. And if they're not just going to do it based on merit, which, I mean, there's probably some angels out there who accidentally fall into an important seat in a political jurisdiction that do it the right way. But on a long enough time scale, all of these are abused. And once they're abused, there's no coming back. Where I grew up, it was middle of nowhere. It was unincorporated. I was not familiar with any of this goofiness. It didn't make any sense. If we needed our trash taken out, we either drove it to the dump ourselves or Bill would come pick it up. We didn't have companies. We didn't have a citywide garbage contract. Where I live now, we don't have a guaranteed set garbage man. There's a couple of companies. There's probably 3 or 4 companies we could call and they'll pick up our trash. They'll do it once a week, twice a week, whatever you want. But I noticed when you get into a lot of bigger cities, there's the tendency to want to consolidate that decision into the hand of government. And Dallas will pick up your trash now and they'll tell you, well, we can do it cheaper. It's a utility. It's for public health. It's for public safety. Whatever the excuse is, what you've done is you've given the people in City Hall the power to sell that gift. So you may think that they go out there and they say, well, let's accept a whole bunch of bids from garbage companies and whichever one's going to serve our people the best, the highest quality service for the lowest overhead, for the lowest price. It's cute you think the world works that way. If you're listening to WBAP, you're probably not that naive. You know the contract goes to whoever can bribe the most, whoever's the most connected, whoever's the biggest donor. That's inevitably the result on a long enough time scale. And so it started that my thinking on this started to change because I had to observe this over and over and over. And there would always be the big fight. Well, the garbage contract's up. Who's going to get it next? Well, these other companies are making a bid. Well, this one made a better bid, but this other company got the project. Why? Well, we don't have any explanation for that. Well, they bribed better. So now if you want to be a garbage company that gets a big city contract, either you're going to be one of the bribe paying guys or you're going to go out of business. You're not going to get it. So now just to survive and play the game, you necessarily have to be a bribing entity. So what happens now? Now that you've taken this power and you put it in the hands of politicians, you have corrupted an otherwise innocent industry. Without that contract, there's no one to bribe. There's nothing to pay a bribe for. It's a free market. It's open. You want the business? Go earn it. Go pick up trash, do it quietly or do it quickly or do it cleanly or do it cheaply, but do it better than someone else and you get the job. But now instead of the job going to whoever does the best or does it cheaper or does the best quality, it's whoever's the best connected. It's whoever has the deepest pockets, whoever threw out the most bribes. And so when it's time to build some project that's got approved by the voters. Oh, we need to renovate a theater, or oh, we've got to redo this park, or we're going to put a bridge, or we're going to make a park over like this park they made over Woodall Rogers. How do you think that went down? Same thing. Anytime you put these powers in the hands of government, and it's not just these big projects, it will necessarily be turned into something that's sold for bribes. But it's everything. Every power you put in their hand. Where the train tracks are going to go for the darts. Where the bus stops are going to be. You know, if you have a convenience store, or if you have a business that would benefit from having people loiter in front of it for a dart bus stop, all you got to do is go bribe some people, and you can get that magic to happen. You can get it taken away from your opponent and put in front of you. Or if it's a bad thing, if it's a restaurant and they run off business, you can go bribe them. They'll take it away from yours and put it in front of someone else's restaurant. Everything, every license, every zoning request, all these permits, every single one of those is a right that has been stolen from you and then sold back to you. And it's across the board, like for license, for driver's license. Before there was a law saying you had to have a driver's license, what could you do? You could legally drive a car whenever you wanted, wherever you wanted, whatever state, whatever time of day. But then when there was a license requirement where you could be fined if you got pulled over and you didn't have a license, they have taken that right away from you. But you can go to the state and for a small fee, you can get a license. So they took a freedom from you and they sold it back to you. Same thing with zoning. Same thing with permits. Same thing with hunting licenses and fishing licenses. It's all rights. It's all freedoms that are stolen and sold back to you. So I don't get mad necessarily at the real estate developer who's had rights taken away from him and it's sold back to him. I'm mad at the thieves. I'm mad at the guys who made up the system. I'm mad at the guys who are benefiting from the system. Because it's not just, hey, let me bribe you and I'll build this. It's like, hey, let me bribe you. And then you can also go tell all these other guys that are going for these projects that, oh, I'm sorry, your application's been denied. So either you play the game and you make the money and you get the contract, or you don't play the game and you die. So now, instead of the capitalist, free market capitalist pig in all of us, we're the best company who does the best service, who builds the best buildings, who does it cheaper, who does it faster, who does it efficiently, who makes the most beautiful buildings with the most ornate, plush-looking designs. They're not the ones who are rewarded. The politically corrupted and connected parasites are rewarded. That's what you create with all of these. Every public project is subjected to this level of corruption. And it's not going to stop until we stop with this. Maybe we shouldn't have a loan system or a 9% housing tax credit that the politicians get to choose winners and losers with. We should get rid of all of them. We should privatize as much as possible in every city. There's no such thing as a city too big to have garbage competition. There should be no such thing as a city garbage contract. There should be no such thing as public transportation in the way we have it now. There should be no such thing as all of these, well, we're going to remodel this old building, or we're going to preserve this house, or a historic preservation, or we're going to build a new park, or the Trinity River Project, or we're going to have some rapids in the middle of downtown. What could possibly go wrong? It's all money being stolen. It's all power being grifted, and it's all corrupted in a way that is much less advantageous if those resources had stayed in the private sector. None of this would have happened. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, you might be surprised how many unhinged teachers are raging across Texas about the election. The hits just keep on coming. We'll get an update with Texas Scorecard next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. One news outlet that you absolutely have to have on your radar if you want to keep up what's going on with public schools in Texas is Texas Scorecard. Why? Because the media is not going to tell you everything that Texas Scorecard is. They love public schools. They love big government. They love teachers unions. They love status quo. They love the powers that be. And while they'll be happy to highlight anytime a pastor or someone of a Christian persuasion or someone that's a Republican or someone that's their political opponent is abusing your kids, they're not so hot and heavy and full-throated about what happens in public schools. So Brandon Walton's back on with the Texas Scorecard. Welcome back to the James Show. And you know, at least we've moved on from them trying to date our kids and have relations with the kids. So they're just screaming at them about the election, but still not cool, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're thankful that it's not that. I guess this seems better in comparison, but this is something actually. The Libs of TikTok Twitter account actually was the first person I saw put attention to this, which is that you had a teacher at Northeast ISD, that's just in San Antonio, who is posting on social media all sorts of vulgar things against Trump supporters after last week's election, saying, F every single one of you who voted for this. You knew he was a horrible person. I don't forgive you. You putrid filth, etc. I mean, definitely losing it. And people are wondering, man, this is somebody who's going to post this on Facebook at night and then teach our kids in the day.
Yeah, and this is a very nuanced topic for me because I don't know where my line in the sand is. I'm okay with teachers being political, and of course you're allowed to have a point of view. You're allowed to espouse it. Now, obviously, you're not allowed to abuse the kids and yell at them and call them horrible names or threaten them, but I don't know where is the boundary in that gray area between the two extremes, Brandon.
Well, I mean, that's just where we are, right? It's this day and age where people feel compelled to write anything that comes to their mind, I guess, on Facebook or social media, but then think that, there's not going to be people who see it, especially in a case where you have a teacher, right, who is essentially, right, works for a public school, is a public servant in some ways. Posting this nonsense, and I mean it goes on. I can't even read all of it, but the district itself has actually spoken on this. They've said they've been made aware of it, that they're investigating the situation and saying that it doesn't reflect their views. So the district is at least taking this as a matter to be investigated.
Well, the other thing that worries me about this situation is if you were to try and fix it, how would you word the fix in a way that can't be used against you? I don't want people getting in trouble for saying, well, he mentioned he went to church on Sunday and that's a separation of church and state and you've got to get fired. So I don't know how you would regulate this without coming into some real sticky situations that could be used against us.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. I don't think this is something you can legislate your way out of. I think this is just something that, people are made aware of it. And certainly there are parents in that district that are seeing this and they're not happy about it. Kids, parents who have kids in those classes. It's up to them to decide what they do next.
Well, I also think it's unfortunate if you have a kid that goes all the way through the school system without ever being challenged on some of the things that they believe. But that's for older students. Is there politics that's allowed at all in the elementary and junior high levels?
Yeah, I mean, this is an elementary school teacher, right? Fifth grade,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back to when I was in fifth grade. I mean, not really, right? I mean, you weren't really getting into politics, nuance, at that point. A little early for that. High school, maybe, right? But I think fifth grade is probably a little young. Yeah,
definitely. The other education-related story that caught my eye on Texas Scorecard, this was after I'd already put the show together. I found this one today. The El Paso Independent School District has a survey circulating to their high school kids, 9th through 12th grade, asking for their gender identities and sexual orientations. Do we really need to know the sexual preferences of a 14-year-old? And isn't that beyond creepy?
Oh, it's absolutely bizarre. I mean, this is exactly the same reason that Democrats lost so big last week. It was on exactly these kinds of issues, in part, which is this radical gender ideology that has seeped its way, and you see it in public schools. So you have El Paso ISD sending out an equity assessment survey asking kids, literally ninth graders, what's your sexual preferences? What's your gender orientation? All that completely inappropriate. Does nothing. There's no benefit to this at all. Certainly no educational benefit to any of this. And in this case, it's not surprising that the school district, once parents brought this to our attention, the school district has remained silent so far.
Well, it feels awful because I have a kid who's 14. And if there was a school saying, hey, who do you prefer to have sex with? I would say he's 14. The correct answer is nobody.
Yeah, why do you like what is the argument that they would need to know this? I don't even know. I mean, the district hasn't even made that argument.
Well, look, you point out what I wish was in every article on one of these situations. Right now, El Paso School District, 31% proficiency in reading, 23% proficiency in math. Can we get back to that instead of the grooming?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally, when you see it always seems to be in these districts that are hit the hardest by these kinds of stories, that they're the same districts that are completely failing students. And these are the same administrators, same teachers unions and lobbies that will go to Austin and fight and have fought for years against school choice. And, it becomes pretty obvious why.
Right. I don't want cross-sex hormones. I need a graphing calculator. Brandon Waltons did not pay me to say this. Texas Scorecard, amazing website. You should check it out. Thank you very much, Brandon.
Thank you.
Who else? Who else is reporting on it from that angle? Because even if they report on it, half the time it doesn't come from your point of view, now does it? But what is the line? Because we're keeping an eye on you public school teachers, private school teachers too. But the issue comes, it's a little more distasteful when I have to pay for it, when you have to pay for it. But we have first, her name's Ashley, and it's misspelled. And I have learned in my old age that if you don't spell your name Ashley, you're going to come with a grain of salt. Because I've had good and bad experiences with the EIGHs out there. And so that's kind of the iffy gray area. But any other spelling besides that, I got my eye on you. This one is a ASHLEE. White people being weird, isn't it? That's okay. I can say it. I am one of them. Don't at me. But she's a 5th grade teacher at an elementary school, Northeast ISD, Bexar County, San Antonio area. She was not happy with the election results. Here's what has her in trouble. Let me read a couple of these social media posts. Now, I don't have the video of her screaming at kids or anything like that. That's not what this one is. This one's a little bit different. This is her posting on what looks like Facebook. F, the whole word. F every single one of you who voted for this. Remove yourself from my life if you did. And then she has a little graphic under it. It says, if you voted for him, we can't be friends. You knew he was going to take away my rights. You knew he was going to take away the rights of women. You knew he hated immigrants, besides marrying 2 of them, and mass deporting illegal immigrants like another famous horrible dictator in the shameful history of humanity. You knew he was a rapist. You knew he grabbed women by the... Okay, we'll just cut it out there. It's pretty bad stuff. Now, she didn't tell that to the kids. Obviously, this is a sign of bad judgment if you're going to put this on Facebook. Should she lose her job? I don't know. I'm not really that offended by this. I think she's totally wrong. I think someone needs to sit her down and be like, number one, stop listening to people on TV. They're driving you crazy. Number 2, we have a policy against this. So you're going to get written up. You're going to be reprimanded. But should she lose her job? A lot of people think she should lose her job and still be able to get hired on at a next school. So she learns her lesson. She gets a severe punishment. And then if she ever does it again, she's really crazy. And no one, this is her one get out of jail free card. Some people are saying foot down. Even though she did this on social media, she has to realize that her kids and the parents are going to see it. She does not deserve to be in teaching public, private, in any capacity whatsoever. All right, so where's the line then? How bad does it have to be? Because you're allowed to express a public opinion. I mean, opinion on something political. You just can't be too aggressive about it. See, that sounds very subjective. Help me out here. 800-288-9227. Josh in Fort Worth, when it comes to these teachers, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I appreciate you taking my call, but I think everybody's entitled to their opinion, like you said. But when it starts to be brought into the class, first of all, she was very aggressive with that and starting to say the F word. I mean, you got to have the social wherewithal to know that that's not okay to post like that in any capacity. And I think that, takes into account her integrity as a teacher as a whole. I mean, it has nothing to do with her political posts, but she's got to have some restraint. And if she can't show restraint, then that kind of speaks to her as well.
Listen, what if there really was Hitler? What if Hitler really was getting elected would you be okay with the teacher, risking her job? It'd almost be her duty. You need to speak out, even if it costs you your job. You got to do the right thing. So again, part of me is sympathetic to her just because she's been fed such a howitzer cannon of lies that she's detached from reality.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we all need to be bold and speak up for what we believe in, but I think there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it.
So fired? She should be fired?
I think reprimanded is better because, she needs to. I hate to just win a sense on anybody and just determine the rest of their career path or life.
Yeah, and I don't want to prove her right. You're a fascist. You don't want to. You can't tolerate anyone who's different than you. All right, you're fired. That almost proves her right, and we're not going to win her over doing that. And no one was really harmed. And I don't know. I feel like I'm being a softie on this, and I'm usually such a butthead that I'm kind of surprising myself here. Thank you very much, Josh.
Yeah.
Rusty in Dallas, you're next up on WBAP. Where do you draw the line on these political teachers?
I believe that. I'm a public school teacher. So you got to be in the middle of the line when it comes to the classroom, and we have a critical thinking problem with the youth. They can't critically think for themselves. So if a teacher is going to give out their political beliefs, you're not allowing them to critically think. And the problem, though, is that you get from social media now where they are getting their news. They're getting their me page or their quote-unquote you page. So whatever they're following, they're constantly getting that, and they're not seeing the other side.
Yeah.
So in my classroom, we are trying to teach them the other side, and both sides, for them to critically think for themselves. Because in the next 2 years, once they get out of my classroom, they're going to be able to vote, and they've got to be able to critically think. Now, when it comes to the school choice, from the knowledge that I get from it, it is going to kill public schools because your upper echelon students are usually the ones that their parents are involved. And so if they are going now school choice and choosing a private school, now those public schools are really going to get lower in value when it comes to their reporting of their grades and things like that. So why don't we focus on the shift back to the family and back to parenting and how we're parenting and having our parents teach them how to critically think.
Well, Rusty, you were saying getting rid of public schools like it's a flaw. I consider that a feature. I would go all private. We could have the right-wing school. We got the left-wing school where they're cool with yelling politics at your kids and scaring them about Trump. We can have the other one that actually has like a crucifix on the wall, and we can act like the Bible exists. And all right, ran out of time here. I would love to continue this discussion. Thank you very much for hanging out. If you need more James Show, it's going to be at the podcast, WBAP.com, WBAP app. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.